And what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in this video, we're going to look at another piece of PyRevit, another tool built into PyRevit. Really cool stuff. It's called Match, and it does lots of things that you're used to doing with the match properties, but it does a little bit more than that. Okay, before we get into it, if at any point in this video you happen to learn something, which I hope you do, then please demolish that like button. It really helps me out a lot. Okay, getting into it now. The first thing we want to look at is the basic match properties, and then let's look into the modified tab. In this match properties, it does everything that you think it will. It's going to literally match the properties of one element to the other. It's going to change the type to whatever. It's going to take the properties of one and make it the other. That's very simple and self-explanatory. So to show an example of that, let's just simply draw a basic line. So I've got one line way here, and let's go ahead and make a 7 here. And obviously, this can apply to anything. So if I match properties of the thick line, I'm basically looking for another type of line because I can't select anything else except lines. I can select this other line, and boom, it becomes that line weight of 7. Very easy. Now, we understand what this is.
So obviously this applies to mod elements all the same, but we want to take it a step further because we can actually do this in PyRevit, but PyRevit has more functionality. So you can find, obviously, PyRevit in the tab here, but we're looking specifically for the match. And obviously, there's not just one tool, there's 4 tools here, which that in of itself says it can do a lot more than just the one tool in the Modify tab. So if we read this match, it says pick the source object that has element graphic overrides you like to match. So clearly, this is a different type of match, which is totally fine. So I'm going to select just a bunch of random pieces here. I'm going to go to override by element, and this can be done by really anything in the view. And I want to make sure that this is, something noticeable, because that's exactly what we want to do. We want to make sure that we can see what this is. Obviously, the patterns, everything graphical, it's totally up to you, and this can apply to anything in your view, because what we're doing is trying to see what happens whenever we match the properties using this PyRevit match tool. And this specifically looking at the graphics. So all of this to say, we've got a lot of colors and weirdness here, and even some of these things are terrible. So what can we do with this? Well, because this match tool is specifically looking at the graphic of that particular element, I can match the property. So like we've done here, I haven't changed every single floor to be this ridiculous red color. I'm obviously missing one here. So maybe what I can do is choose this match, and you'll notice whenever I click this, I get this giant gold pop-up here at the top, basically prompting me and telling me what to do, which is actually nice. And it says pick source object. So basically, we know what the match properties tool does, the standard one in Revit, but we want to use this one specifically for graphic override. So I'm going to select an object that I want to match, basically take and apply to something else, another element. So let's take this floor, and then as soon as I click that, I get another prompt up here that says pick objects to match overrides. And I can simply click that floor and look, it turns red. If I want to do the same thing here, I can, boom. And you'll notice that this even applies to the walls. Like, I chose this floor and it's red, but when I click on this wall, it turns blue like the other walls. Now that's cool. That's like kind of the idea. And that's because it's taking, if we inspect this wall, we look at the graphic overrides. These are all of the overrides that I made for all of these different elements. And obviously it changes based on whether it's a cut or something like that, a solid surface, whatever. But I can select this light, and I can see, yeah, this has the exact same override. So it wouldn't have mattered if I picked a floor or not, which is really cool. And that's kind of nice. Really great. Now, something else I want to show you before we get a little farther is a lot of these PyRevit tools have a shift-click functionality, which means if I shift-click this button, we can get some more options, or at least get a little more idea of what's going on. And so I can shift-click this match, and I can see, ooh, all right, this is really helpful. Let's see, element graphic override. It's basically saying, do I want to take all of these things into account? And I could just say, yeah, you know what, foreground fill color, I don't want PyRevit to, I just want to ignore that no matter what's there. I could do that. Now, I don't necessarily want to. I want to know that it's taking all of these graphic overrides into account, because that makes the most sense to me. I will say, by default, the text position for dimensions is unchecked. I don't know why, but it is. Now, I like that because for this very reason. I'll show you. But obviously we can check none or check all. We want to make sure to save these options. So let's save that. Now I'm going to draw a couple of dimensions just to give you an idea of what this can do. And I'll pick this and that. Like, okay, so we've got a nice dimension there, and maybe we've got another one here, and even here. Doesn't matter. That's great. So a lot of times what we might do is we might edit this dimension, and it might be text or whatever, and I might do something like field verify, whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, and it might be that I have a lot of other things that are overlapping and that I move this text here. It might be that I do the same thing here, or it might be that I, for some reason, just have lost this. Someone accidentally clicked this and it's way over there. Now, this is obviously absurd and you don't want this, but where can this match properties in PyRevit help us out? Well, if I click match, it's saying pick a source object. And now we're thinking, this is applying to graphic overrides. And you can think of this text position or this text change as a graphic override. Now, let's see if we want to get back to default. We want to make this default. I can click this one, which I have not addressed in any sort of graphical way or text or moved it. I haven't done any of that, but I can click this and basically say, all right, which dimension? You can see even it says dimension here. Which dimension do I match the overrides? And I want to actually use this one. And so this immediately jumps back because I have that text position checkbox. And now if I do the exact same thing here, I get basically resetting it. Now, you can decide if that's something you want to do, because the dimension that I chose from was something I had not edited. It was basically in reset mode. It was kind of default. But what I can do is if I wanted to undo this, we can see what happens if I match the properties of some of these other ones. I can take this one, and if I want to match the properties to the basic 6-foot dimension here, you can see, look, I'm getting this exact same text effect. And so maybe you want this, obviously not like this, but maybe you want this because you have the dimensions in a certain place based on other notes or just where you want to display these dimensions. That's great. And I can do the exact same thing with field verify and move that there. And you'll notice because I haven't overrode the naming or changed it to text, I get my number back. Now, I'm going to do this one more time with the text. And if I override using this specific text, you can see the location is a little off-centered. But if I click this here, you can see, it's taking that field verify text and it's moving it there. And you'll notice it, because I moved the field verify like up, it was moved up in this one, regardless of the fact that this is a horizontal versus vertical dimension. That's very interesting. And my guess is it will do the exact same thing, moving this up here and rename this to field verify. Look at that. That is fantastic. I can't say that this is something I'm going to use all the time, but the functionality, instead of having to go into every single one of these if I wanted to and say, I need to type in field verify or even just copy pasting, I can do that very, very quickly with this simple match graphic overrides tool because it applies to dimensions as well. Really cool. I can see myself using this obviously for graphic overrides, but for dimensions very, very easily. Okay, so cool. The next one is match paint, and this does exactly what you would expect, and I guess we could say hopefully what you would hope it would do. Now I'm going to zoom in here, and this is just on the exterior, and I specifically want to paint this wall. Obviously, let's go ahead and do that. So paint here, and I made a material specifically for this that I can paint. So let's click this, and I just want to apply this paint there, and obviously we can see what it is. It's working. That's great. Now, I am not a huge advocate of painting walls, but if you're an interior designer and you're working on interior design documentation, a lot of instances will, I'm going to hesitate to say require, but it might require you to paint walls, and that's understanding. I get that. So how do we use this PyRevit tool match to match the paint? Well, I simply match this, and it says pick source object. Obviously, it can be anything because you may or may not have a paint on an object. So let's go ahead and click this one because I know I have paint on here. I just painted this. I can click that, and then basically it says pick faces to match materials. Now, the cool thing is that I get specifically faces. It's not like I have to click another wall, but I get faces of walls, which is really great. So maybe I want this to be on the exterior. Again, I probably would use painting on the interior only, but regardless, I can click that and then suddenly boom, and I can do the exact same thing for every single face that I want to, which is awesome. Very quick and very easy to do, and it's just like the match properties tool, but specifically for paint. Because if I tried to do this with the Revit tool, it would change the whole wall type, which might be what I want to do, but typically not. And this is specifically for paint. So if I wanted to do this again, maybe I want to just reset it. Now, obviously, there's a couple things I can do here, and I want to show you this. Under the paint tool, I can come to this drop down and I can remove the paint. That's a separate tool. But if I wanted to paint this here, I can highlight and just hover over it. I can see that this partition specifically, this face of the partition is painted with the underscore paint material. Really good to know. And if I come over here, I can see that this wall is nothing. I have nothing there. Same with this wall. There's nothing painted. So that's fine. But what we can do is, there's basically two ways I can remove this now. What I can do is I can go to the simple remove paint, and I can just click that face and it removes the paint. Real easy. We know what that does. We're familiar with that. But if I wanted to use the PyRevit tool, I can come to match, and I can match the paint, and I can select it, basically this wall that we just removed the paint from, we know has no paint. I can select that one, and then now I can select these walls, and look, it removes the paint. Obviously, I'm doing the exact same thing that I did with the remove paint tool, but in a sense, I'm doing something different because I'm matching the properties of the face of the wall that has no paint to apply no paint to other faces. It doesn't matter. It's kind of up to you. If you want to live in the PyRevit tool, it's just another way that you can do it. You don't have to go to the remove paint tool. You can apply this match properties to an object that doesn't have paint and then just apply that everywhere. Real easy to do. Okay. Next we want to look at is the actual match properties. And I want to read this, and this is match instance or type properties between elements and their types. So in a sense, this can do the same thing that the typical match properties will do in Revit. We know that. But what I want to do is, let's maybe go to one of these floor plans. And I can go to this floor plan here. And what I want to do now is maybe change a couple of elements. So let's take this door, for example. And so I want to say maybe the door swing is going to be 42 degrees, something really weird and specific. And maybe I want to put a comment here that applies to this door. Maybe black finished door. Okay, I don't know, black painted door, anything like that. Okay, and then we can obviously see all my other properties here. I can apply a finish material. I don't want to do all that. You know, this is all stuff that I have in there. But maybe this, for some reason, is also an existing door. I don't know. I'm just changing these properties to show you what this tool can do. And so, obviously, it looks different in many ways. But now we want to actually match the properties. Let's say this bathroom door is actually the same as the pantry door. And I don't want to have to go through and do the exact same changes to these properties and parameters that I made from this door to the pantry door. Well, that is where our friend comes into play, match properties. Now, I'm going to show you what happens if I match the properties using the Revit. If I take this one and I match the properties, what I get is a few things. The main thing being is that I get the swing angle, and that is it. You'll notice that is it. I happen to have a different door. It happens to be the same door, but if it were a different door, it would have changed. Now, obviously, I don't need this to be a 90-minute door, but it's just a door. It's just a placeholder right now. So I'm going to undo that and show you what we can do with the PyRevit version, because there's a lot more functionality there. So let's go to the drop down and then match properties. So immediately I get this pop-up, and this can be a bit overwhelming, and so I'm going to try and break this down in a simple way. If you want to compare, not even necessarily compare, if you want to work with the elements versus views, basically elements is going to say, I want to look at these specific elements of parameters within the elements versus parameters within views. And so if I click on elements, we'll click on views in a second. I'm then prompted to pick source object. Now, obviously, we want to take this door and make it the pantry door, make it look and function the same. I can click this one, and immediately this is an absurd pop-up. But what are we actually looking at? Well, we're looking at all the not only instance but type parameters that happen to apply to this door. And obviously all doors will have the exact same, because I've either applied new parameters to doors, whether they're an instance or a type. So that all door parameters will show up here because I selected a door. Okay, so what are we talking about now? Well, basically we want to select the actual parameters that we want to match and apply to other objects. So if you remember what I affected, I changed the comments. I also changed, I believe, the swing angle. The cool thing is that I can actually search up here. Well, I also changed it from new construction to existing, so that would be phasing, and so that would be my phase created. Really cool. Okay, so I have these 3 different parameters, and then so basically to say I want these specific parameters to live in my match properties tool, and then I get to select new objects that I want to apply all the values that I have in those parameters to something else. In this case will be another door. It'll be the pantry door. So I can select. Cool, and I'm good to go. And at this point it says pick object to match type properties. In this case it's type or instance. They're all parameters. And so because I've selected this door, I'm taking those specific parameters that I chose from the selection. And now it's like, well, what objects do I want to apply this to? Now I can apply this to other objects because other objects obviously have a phase. They have a comment just by default, but they may or may not have a swing angle. If it's a door, it does. If not, it might not, and likely doesn't if it's like a wall or a curtain wall, for example. So I don't necessarily want to click a wall, but let's go ahead and click this door and see what happens. I'm going to click this, and all of a sudden it matches the swing angle. It clearly appears to be in the existing phase, and it probably has the comment that is like a black finish door. Cool. Now, what I want to do, just to show you as an example, what would happen is, let's click this wall, or actually this is a floor. Let's click this floor. Well, let's see what happens. So it seems to have worked actually with the wall. So I'm going to actually show you first this door. If I click this door, the original, we can see the swing angle is 42, black finish door, and then obviously phase created is existing. Click this door, I can see, yeah, swing angle 42, there's my comment, black finish door, and then phase created is existing. That's really cool. And now I'm going to click on this wall and we're going to look at, see if we see the same thing. Now, there's no swing angle because it's a wall, but what I do see is under the comments, black finish door. Does that make sense? No, but the point is that it worked. And I come down here and then phase created is existing. So this is really powerful. You know, it might be that I wanted to match everything except the phase created. You know, that's cool. That works as well. Obviously, we can apply this beyond just basic instance parameters because there might have been specific properties within this door that we wanted to apply to a different door, like actual type properties. I'm not going to go through that, but it's the exact same thing. Obviously, we wanted to take the fire rating of one door to the other. We can go through and do that. So this door actually has no fire rating. If I go to the type and then fire rating, I'm actually going to remove it here. Click OK, great. So that has no fire rating, but this one does. So let's go ahead and go to my PyRevit match and then match properties. Use selected element. Yeah, I do. I have it selected. And so I can come all the way here to fire rating, and I can even search fire rating. And look, this is specifically a type. And I'm going to select OK, and then click this. So now this door has that fire rating. And so what actually happened? Well, if I click on the door, we're not going to see that anywhere here because it is a type parameter. I can come into edit type, scroll down and see, look, there's my 90-minute, it's back. So this is, I will say, when it comes to type properties, I'd be a little more hesitant to doing this because that can be a bit dangerous because what I did didn't show up anywhere necessarily, and it didn't show up anywhere from an instance or like specific element standpoint. It was all the types. So if I have 100 of these doors, I just changed the fire rating of all 100 doors. Is it a good thing? Yeah, maybe if I wanted to. But also, I could have just randomly clicked something, didn't realize it, whatever. So just be careful with this because obviously it can have devastating consequences if you don't know what you're doing. The point of this video is to teach you and give you an idea of what it can do and maybe what you should and shouldn't do with this tool. And then finally, we can look at compare properties, which is really interesting. And we're going to see the exact same thing when it comes to elements or views. Basically, do I want to look at the specific elements, or do I want to look at whole views? Let's click on views, and we can see, well, there's a ton here. And so maybe what I want to do is compare this level 2 floor plan with this level 1 area plan. Or maybe we can first look at this area level 2 floor plan, select that, and then basically what is the target? What are we comparing this to? Well, how about this level 1 area plan? So obviously there should be some differences. So let's select, and we're going to get this giant printout, and this may or may not be useful information to you, but nonetheless, it's going to give you a big printout of what's going on. And so these are, just notice, I selected view, so these are view properties, whether they're instance parameters or not. All of these view parameters are a part of each of those 2 views, and you can see which of them align in a sense, like they both share these properties, and not only the properties but the actual settings. So obviously the view scale equals the view scale for both of them. They have the same scale, which is cool. Display model has the same setting set. They're set on different disciplines, things like that. So this isn't like the most helpful thing ever, but you can clearly see a clear difference. And just like we saw before with this match, if I match the properties of views, we're going to get the exact same thing, and I can literally take the view properties of one and apply it to another, which is totally fantastic. Now, obviously, you want to be careful with that, just like we saw with the instance or type parameters. It's going to have a lot of impacts down the road. Just so know what you're doing. It's going to apply the exact same. So finally, what we want to do is look at compare properties, but specifically of elements. And so I just want to look at a couple of these elements. So what I want to do is, let's go ahead and take this door, for example. And once I click this door, I'm not really prompted to do anything, but you can see down here at the bottom left, it says pick target element. So I'm not sure why we didn't get a second pop-up, but basically I want to select my second object to compare. So I'm going to take this door, obviously, and I want to compare it maybe to this other curtain wall door. And so clearly there's going to be differences. And obviously, again, this is a type of report that's a bit absurd, but nonetheless, we're going to get a lot of information out of here that may or may not be helpful to us. It's just kind of up to you whether you think so or not. But what we can do here is we can clearly see the area of the doors. It does not match. The category matches because they're both doors. Design option, they're the same design option, that type of thing. All of these parameters either match or they don't. And we can clearly see here the phase created is very different. It's not the same, because if we come over here and look at this one, we obviously changed this one to existing, and then this one is still new construction. Clear. So that's cool. I don't see myself using that all that much, but if I, for some reason, can't find the difference between one element and the other, I might do something like that. I might compare them and look like that. I don't know. But anyways, that is the match tool in PyRevit. There's a lot that it can do, and clearly you can probably see from this video, you need to be careful with when and how you use it, but nonetheless, that's why we make these videos, so you get a full understanding of what these tools can do, how you can better your model experience and make your life a little easier. So that will do it for this video. If you happen to learn something, which I hope you did, please demolish that like button. It really, really helps me out a lot. And obviously, I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for watching.